Hello guys, the events of this week demonstrate that unfortunately authoritarian regimes unite, support each other stronger than ever, and demonstrated to the world, to Ukraine and NATO very vividly. Also, violence is becoming a very popular way of solving problems, and this is dangerous. Today, I have woken up to the news about the assassination attempt of the former US president and now the Republican candidate Donald Trump, and this is bad. Because by killing a politician, you can only create more problems and more violence between people, and that's definitely not the way to solve problems, especially in the democratic world. And this was also a week of extreme violence that Russia demonstrated in its destruction and attack on Children's Cancer Hospital and other hospitals in Kyiv, actually killing 37 people and injuring many. This was also a week of NATO summit that provided Ukraine with some really good decisions and updates, but also with some uncertainty, which becomes traditional in Ukraine-NATO relations. We are waiting for F-16s that most likely will appear in the Ukrainian skies in the next weeks, and I'm sure I will get more good updates on the channel as soon as they arrive. We continue destroying Russian military targets, oil refineries and depots and military airfields, and constantly asking for a permission to strike back deeper inside Russia, because this is actually the best way to defeat them and prevent this war from expanding to many other European countries, including NATO countries, because Putin at the moment is trying to reconstruct the former Soviet Union. And he believes that NATO, West is weak and no one will prevent him from doing that, especially if China, Iran and North Korea support him. Let's prove that he and millions of zombies who support him are wrong. So let's have a look at other events of this week from an ordinary Ukrainian perspective. My name is Anna and I vlog daily from Ukraine since the start of the brutal Russian invasion. So if you're new to the channel, you support Ukraine, please subscribe and help us fight against Russian propaganda and fake news. And my longtime friends, check your subscription status and hit notification button. I have woken up to the news that there was an assassination attempt on the former president and now candidate of the Republican Party, Donald Trump. Trump's relations with Ukrainian people are quite complicated, and I don't speak much about American politics on the channel, and I will keep to this attitude because I believe I'm Ukrainian and I have to speak about Ukraine. That's my mission here, and you know better. But the only thing I may say for sure is that killing someone is not a way to solve a problem. It's a way to create more problems, and violence is evil. Believe me, once again, I'm Ukrainian. We witness that. We don't like Russian attitudes of killing people. For example, this week, the attempt to assassinate the CEO of Rheinmetall, a German citizen, was discovered and shared by the US and German intelligence services. So definitely, violence, assassination is not the way to solve a problem. It's a way to create a problem. I can have one exception, and you clearly understand whom I mean, but I have to be careful with YouTube policies. So that's the Kremlin gobbling. For him, everything is okay. Everything is accepted from my perspective. But anyway, I hope that President Trump will recover soon, and at least this campaign is extremely escalated, and I'm sure it will continue. Of course, Ukrainians observe it very attentively and will lack clarity of his plans. But anyway, violence is something we all have to avoid, because also inside Ukraine, Russia is trying to quarrel us. Russia is trying to cause lots of troubles inside Ukrainian society, and I know what it means. So please, my beautiful viewers from the United States, be careful, because they are working to quarrel you with each other, to quarrel you with your friends, neighbors and families. That's the way evil authoritarian regimes work. They know this old proverb like separate and invade. I don't know if I have translated it clearly, but they do understand that people who are angry, people who are extremely emotional, who hate each other, are extremely easy to manipulate and destroy. And we don't want that. We have to stay united because despite our differences, we all stand for very similar values. This was also an awful week of the attack on Kyiv. 37 people were killed, lots of injured, among the killed children, and not just children, but children who were getting the help to fight cancer or other complicated disease. Ohmedit is the best Ukrainian hospital for complex cases, and children from all over the country were coming there. Now, even those who survived don't have this opportunity, and the hospital needs serious reconstruction. That's why it is so important for Ukraine to prevent such strikes, and we ask, let us strike back and destroy Russian military objects inside Russia, deeper inside Russia. If you're new to the channel and you support Ukraine, please subscribe. This is the easiest way to demonstrate your solidarity with the democratic world, and most importantly, to help us spread more information about this war. This is very important if we want to prevent the Third World War, if we want to prevent authoritarian regimes from uniting. Russia continues to threaten my country, and for example, the spokesperson of the Russian Ministry of Foreign Attacks, Maria Zakharova, said they have information that Ukraine is getting ready to destroy 2 dams of our hydroelectric stations in Kyiv and Kyiv. Of course, this is very crazy. No one would ever do it to his own or her own country, taking into account that's a huge ecocide that leads to the death of thousands of people, of animals. But this is a very typical Russian information war campaign. First of all, they are trying to threaten Ukrainian people and make us ask for ceasefire and negotiations with Russia and stop our support to the government and so on. This will never happen. But also they typically announce their attacks this way to try and pretend they are not responsible. They did similar announcements before the destruction of Kakhovka Dam, which they did last year in June, and something similar with the hospitals when they spoke about the biolaboratories, NATO soldiers in Ukrainian hospitals, and then targeted to a maternity hospital and children's cancer hospital in Kyiv. That's why the updates from a NATO summit that soon Ukraine will get it F-16s. Our pilots have already accomplished their training courses, some of them, and they are coming. From what I understand, the number of the jets that we will receive this year is 26, and I can honestly tell you this is not many, because from watching a number of F-16 experts, pilots, representatives of the NATO, they say that like 100 jets a year would make a difference for Ukraine, because we have to understand that Russia is the largest country in the world. Russia is the country that inherited everything from the times of the Cold War, and now they use it like crazy. Moreover, they have all the support from China, and they have all the support from Iran and the North Korea, and they supply them at high speed without any bureaucratic delays, doubts, votes, and so on. Of course, this long process of decision-making is very good because it helps to safeguard the democratic procedures. But when fighting with a crazy authoritarian super empire, it is a problem. Because once again, China provides Russia with all the details it needs for the construction of weapons. North Korea sends millions of artillery shells just in weeks. And Ukraine is waiting for like 20 jets for 2 years. Or for example, many of the supplies that are actually announced, it takes like months or even years for them to come to Ukraine. And you may be wondering, why aren't Ukrainians using that? Why aren't Ukrainians fighting with that? Because the fact that something was announced does not mean it is on Ukrainian front lines. It may take not just months, it may take thousands of Ukrainians' lives for something to arrive. That's why it's so important to stand united and to demonstrate this unity. Because the declaration of NATO that Ukraine irreversibly will become a part of NATO is very good, but it does not say anything. And for example, Belarus has already become a part of Shanghai bloc that China is developing together with Russia, military bloc, with no delays, with no promises. And I honestly think, listening to some political leaders, listening to some strategic communication advisors like John Kirby, I feel that many of NATO countries are in danger. And when Poland was denied by the United States a permission to shoot down Russian missiles that cross Polish border, because this may be treated by Russia as attack on Russia? How? It's definitely extreme weakness. And of course, Russia is not stupid. They understand that if their missile accidentally, which is not accidental, but let's imagine accidentally crossed the border of Poland, it should be shot down. It's the rule. It has always been like that. And it's very far away from Russia when they shoot Russian missiles actually on the territory of Poland to prevent Polish people from dying. But somehow many leaders of NATO countries see it as an escalation. And this was a moment when I felt very worried for the Baltic states, for Poland, because in case of Russian attack on these countries, I am 99.9% sure that many NATO leaders will find an excuse not to use Article 5, and they will describe it as the desire not to escalate and prevent the nuclear war. When we clearly understand that not fighting back, demonstrating your weakness, letting the bully do what it wants, is the way to actually bring that nuclear war and more danger to Ukraine. NATO alliance in its declaration for the first time in history actually expressed serious concerns about China backing up Russia. China reacted really quickly, saying these are rumors and reminded of the Cold War. But guys, this is no more a Cold War. This is a very, very hot war. And I agree that many Western countries, they don't fight in the Third World War. NATO does not participate in this war. Even Putin says it already does. But in reality, all these authoritarian regimes, China, Russia, Iran, they are already fighting this war against not just Ukraine, but also against you. And there is no other way but to accept this brutal reality and to start fighting back. I was listening to many political observers, military analysts, and I have come up to this conclusion that I consider quite important. There is no way we can end Russian aggression against the West politically. When Russia invaded Georgia in 2008, it was already a demonstration that we cannot solve this problem, existential problem, politically. After Russia's annexation of Crimea, it has become even more clear. So we have to understand that this danger that Russian aggression imposes not just on Ukraine, but on many other countries, because believe me, in case they get Ukraine, they will definitely continue. No reason to stop. Come on. Just as it was with Crimea. So the only way to solve this problem is military way. So we have to start thinking in military terms. And for example, when Ukraine is denied right to strike back inside Russia, to destroy the military airfields that are located, let's say, 300 kilometers away from the border, and later from this airfield, Ukrainian children hospitals are shelled. So when Ukraine is not allowed to do so, it is a political decision. It is not a military decision, because from a military perspective, it is a BS decision. It is a foolish decision. And if you listen to NATO representatives, former and acting, you clearly see they don't understand what's wrong, why people do that, why people ban that, when it's obvious that for the victory of Ukraine and the defeat of the Kremlin, the only way is to help us fight and fight strong, not just defend ourselves on our own territory, letting them destroy more and more, kill more and more. Because if it will become the war of exhaustion, I'm sorry, we are 40 millions and we are the largest country in Europe, but we are not the largest country in the world. So let's stay united. Unfortunately, escalation around the world is getting more and more vivid, and it's not the Ukraine's fault, it's not the France's fault, it's not the US fault. We all have to blame Russia because Russia was the first country to ignore international agreements and violate borders and all that respect that existed between very different, very diverse states, but actually helped this world keep peace. Remember to join me on Threads, Instagram, Discord, and X. I'm active there, and all the links are in the description of this video. If you're new to the channel, please join us. We have a beautiful community of the people who care about the future of this planet and the democratic world. Also, you can check our merch shop. The link is also in that description. It has lots of really good items that work well as reminders and conversation starters about Ukraine, and you know we need that a lot. And thank you so much for buying me coffees, becoming patrons and sponsors of the channel, and helping me film and write more. I'm blessed to have you in my life, same as all people of Ukraine are very grateful for your prayers, for your actions, and for your support that actually helps us not just survive but win, and we will win together. Slava Ukraini!